encourage you to either. I want to encourage everyone, if you do have questions that come up during a speaker or anything that we're talking about this evening, please, you can use, or you can wave your hand or raise your hand on Zoom, and we'll try to get to that. We've got an hour this evening to go through some of the recent projects, launching a media application to try to quickly when things happen, or provide meeting reminders, things like that. So Allie will be going over that. We have Charlie Flatten District to give us an update on management of the Jacobsville Groundwater Management Zone, how that is being implemented and working. I have a presentation on a intensive bacteria study that we've been conducting on the lower portion of Cypress Creek. And then an opportunity at the end for some information. We'll hear some from Wimberley Valley Watershed on some projects, and opportunity for any questions that we didn't hit along the way. So hope you can have a good, comfortable space to sit and enjoy our speakers. I'm glad everybody could be here this evening. And if you weren't here right at the beginning, my name's Nick Dornack, and I think I know many of you on here, but I'm the watershed coordinator for Cypress Creek. And with that, let's start off with one beautiful video that I wanted to share. If any of you have not seen this already, this is your opportunity. And as you know, we've worked very closely with the Meadow Center, Wimberley Valley Watershed, and Wimberley ISD, and numerous contractors and engineers to build one of the finest schools in the state of Texas. And the YouTube video that the school put up from the student says it better than anybody, I think, could say it. So I wanted to share that with y'all this evening.
It is so exciting to know all the things that we've done here at Blue Hole, but especially what we're proud of is our One Water system. And we have an awesome group of young men and young ladies. Our second grade GT class is going to explain to you exactly how this system works here at Blue Hole. I'm so excited to see this.
The Blue Hole Primary holds 10,000 gallons of water. The water in the tank is rainwater. The water in the tank in front of the Blue Hole Primary is used to water the grass and trees in front of the building. The gutters right over there bring the water into the tank. This is about our limestone blocks. Our drinking water comes from the underground water. Rain helps recharge our water supply, like this. See how it sinks in? Pervious and impervious. Pervious allows water to sink in. Impervious just rolls off the side. We have pervious and impervious on the sidewalks when you walk in. Now I'm going to show you an example. I'm going to pour this water. It sinks in. And on this side, when I pour it, it just runs down. Doesn't sink in. And so that side is called impervious. That's impervious because it just rolls off and now it sinks into the aquifer. The vegetative filter strip slows down stormwater. It helps allow water to sink in. It also slows down erosion. It stops bad things before they go into the groundwater. It also helps less flooding. See how there's not that many curbs in this parking lot like this one? That's because the parking lot is in an angle so the rainwater can go into the grass and sink in. supply tank. The firefighter supply tank holds more than 200,000 gallons of water. It's big, skinny, and it's tall. It's a sign for the firefighters to know that they can use it. This water is only for firefighters. It feeds the fire hydrant and fire sprinklers, and it has hose connections. This is the site harvested supply tank. It is the lower and wider one. It's lower so gravity can help the water get into the tank. And it holds more than 200,000 gallons. And it collects rainwater. And as you can see, there's purple it's from the purple pipes. The purple pipe is rainwater. Plumbers use it to show it's not potable water. Non-potable water means you can't drink it. A blue hole, purple pipe means that it was caught here. Rainwater lands on the 78,000 square feet roof and is also caught in AC condensate, and there's 84 AC units. The water is stored right over there. It comes here and then it gets used.
This is the plumbing window. All the pipes are color-coded to what they mean. Red is hot and potable water. Blue is cold and also potable water. They are both Aqua-Texas groundwater. Yellow means ventilation. Green is gray water. You can also call it dirty water. Purple is rainwater and AC condensate, also known as site harvested water.
So Blue Hole Primary was built with STEM principles in mind. It uses science, technology, engineering, and math to immerse the students in the experience. For instance, this is a rain tube. When it rains, you can see the water entering into the system. This water winds up in the site harvested supply, and that's what's used for flushing the toilets here.
Thank you to the designer. Thank you to the construction worker.
Thank you for all the engineers that helped to make the plans and help to build the school.
Thank you, builders. I want to thank the community who supported us. I wanted to thank the businesses that worked with us. I want to thank to the school board for helping us.
And thank you to the administration.
Thank you!
Thank you so much, boys and girls, for showing us around today. And thank you, Robin, from the Wimberley Watershed. We hope you've enjoyed our tour and enjoy our school just as much as we do. It's beautiful.
Well, if that doesn't put a smile on your face, I don't think anything will. Beautifully done. Nice work, Robin. Nice work, Wimberley ISD. Just, I'm getting the tingles under my skin every time I watch that, because it really drives home the reason doing something like this in a school like Wimberley's is so important. These are the kids that are they're living in in this environment, going to school there, being part of that, touching it, feeling it. It's gonna sink in, and it's very heartwarming and just a wonderful thing. So that video is on YouTube, so you guys, I can put I'll put the link in the chat if anybody is interested in downloading that or sharing that. And with that, I wanted to go ahead and move on to Allie to launch our Remind app with our stakeholders. So Allie, take it away.
Yeah, so like Nick said, we are. Oh, is someone unmuted?
Me.
Okay, so we are trying a new form of communications with our stakeholders, just trying to have an easier way of getting in touch with them, because sometimes we're not checking our email all constantly, and like announcements might get buried in your inbox. So we're trying this. I'm sorry, I don't have a screen to show you. Let me pull that up really quick. But we are trying this new app called Remind, and a bunch of schools and universities and administrations use it to communicate with classrooms and parents and students in their classrooms, but we've decided to use it for this purpose, communicating with all of you guys. And let me share the screen with you. This is just their website. You don't have to sign up on their website, but this is just the company. It's very safe. We're not going to share your phone numbers with anybody else or a lot of strangers, but we all of the signups will come through me and Nick and stored in a file where no one else can see them. So you can sign up for this app by going to our website, and we updated our subscription page that takes you to a survey now, where you can enter in your name and your email if you're not already signed up for newsletters. And then if you want to, you can sign up to receive these text messages through Remind. And so you can just enter in your phone number and we'll get you all signed up. When we enter in your phone number, I think you'll get a couple of confirmation texts just to say, are you sure you want to do this, in case you don't, maybe someone didn't want to, or not, like on accident. And so well, I think what we could, we're going to use it for announcing new data that comes in. I'm working on a new newsletter right now, an annual newsletter. So whenever I publish the newsletter and send it out, you guys might get a little text saying, hey, check your email for a newsletter. So that's the Remind app. And we're hoping that it'll just be an easier and faster way to communicate with all of you guys. So again, you can sign up by going to cypresscreekproject.net, scrolling to the very bottom, clicking subscribe, and then entering your information here. Yeah, that's that for me.
All right. Thank you, Allie. And I hope that that is as simple as we can get to sign up. We will, I think, Allie, you sent out some emails also to get folks to sign up to the core committee, right? So we might want to, so we'll be putting that in the newsletter to have other folks sign up through there. We'll be trying to push this and build up our pool over the next, several months. But this is something that can constantly build and we can manage. And the other part of this as well, it's you can't, when you sign up, you're not able to share with the whole group. So the group won't get a bunch of unfiltered and texts. But if there's something that anybody would like to share with the Cypress Creek Project, this is a great way to do it, because you can send something directly to us and then we can put. I hope this is a really nice way to help stay a little more connected on this nice addition. So we were glad that TCEQ supported this, and that the university, after 6 months or so of telling us why we couldn't do it, allowed us to do it. So it was good to get that going. So next up, I'm very happy to have Charlie Flatten with us today, the General Manager of the Hayes Trinity Groundwater Conservation District, your groundwater conservation district here in Wimberley and Wood Creek and Western Hayes County. And one of the biggest, I think, accomplishments that this valley has undertaken and achieved in the last number of decades was the development of the Jacobs Well and adoption of the Jacobs Well groundwater management zone, led by the district. I know that Linda Kay was texting me trying to get in. I don't know if she ever contacted you, Allie, trying to get in.
Yeah,
she was a big driver of this. Yeah. So, many stakeholder meetings went into that. Technical information, just a broad community effort. And Charlie's going to talk to us today about how all that is going. So let's make sure that Charlie can share his screen, Allie, and give us a presentation.
Thank you, Nick. Let me see if I can share my screen. And try that again. Can everybody see that?
There you go.
Let me try one more
We
thing.
got you.
I'm smart enough to do this. How's everybody doing this afternoon? It looks like it's about to rain here where I am, and I'm very excited about that. And I'm going to try and get us on. There we go. My name is Charlie Flatten, and I'm the general manager at the Hayes Trinity Groundwater Conservation District. The district was formed 20 years ago by the state legislature to serve as the only agency with the authority to protect and manage the aquifers here in western Hayes County. It's been a long road. We've gathered a lot of data. We do a lot of good work. We are available online at hayesgroundwater.com. If you'd like to see our map collection, our research or science, please feel free to come to our website and browse. It's a vast library of information, and we love it when people come and visit our scientific reports and everything else that we've got up on the website. I want to start with current conditions here in the district. Currently, we're under 20% drought curtailment conditions. This is our latest aquifer state map. Dark oranges and purples are not good. Recent rains have created slowly improving conditions. So since the rain started in late spring, we've seen a lot of our purples and oranges go away, and some of the greens and yellows creep back into the district boundaries. So I'll ask you all to conserve as much as you can. If you need to wash your car, maybe go over into Blanco County or someplace else. In any event, this is what it looks like at the end of the month. The panels on the right show what it's looked like for the past 12 months in a row. You can see that we really vary from month to month in terms of aquifer health. Again, purples and oranges are bad, so we've been in a pretty strong drought for more than a year. But the good news is down at the bottom right, you can see that the oranges and greens are creeping back into the map. The left side of the screen, you can see the history of this map since 2008. So from year to year, we've got a lot of variability, and it's wholly dependent on weather and how much rain we get. And ironically, it's not immediate. That's not ironic at all. It is a fact. When it begins to rain, the aquifer does not rebound very quickly. We have slow rates of recharge. And so the rain that we've been getting for the past month or two will take some time to show up on our drought curtailment charts and in our aquifers. I know that if you look out your window, the grass and the trees are happy and healthy, and that's wonderful. But much of that groundwater has not made it down into the aquifers that we drill our wells into. So give it some time, continue to conserve. Hopefully these rains will continue and we'll be pulling ourselves out of drought before we know it. The original agenda that I saw asked me to speak of regional aquifer management and a status report on Jacobs Well groundwater management zone. Nick, I wonder if you have an opinion as to whether I could spend a minute or two talking about the DFC process, or whether you'd like for me to pile right into the status of the zone.
Charlie, I think a brief talk on the DFC would be great. That's certainly at the top of a lot of folks' list right now.
I thought it might be. I'm getting calls around the office. For those of you who are new to groundwater planning and management, the state of Texas has developed a planning system called, Regional Aquifer Management. It's the Groundwater Management Area Process, or GMA. That's an acronym you're going to hear bandied around a lot. We're in GMA 9. GMA 9 stretches from the I-35 corridor all the way across to Kerrville and Blanco County. This planning process is a 5-year planning process. We're in the final year of our current 5-year planning process in 2021. The new planning cycle begins in 2022. The planning process relies on models and population data to determine changes in load and in recharge and in use. We don't have very good new models at the moment, or any better than we had 5 years ago. And we don't have population data that's current. For that reason, the Groundwater Management Area 9 participants have recommended a proposal to maintain status as we wait for new census data and the Superior model to come down the road. We're expecting that very soon. There's a couple of acronyms that we all hear, so I'll go over them and try to give a brief explanation. We talk about DFCs. This is the DFC process. Well, that stands for desired future conditions. And that really is the average drawdown over time. And what it constitutes is a compromise between reasonable youth and growth expectations and prudent conservation. The DFC, as it's been for the Hill Country and the Trinity Aquifer for the past 15 years, is an average 30-foot drawdown across the Hill Country. Obviously, that average will parse out differently for each groundwater district. Some groundwater districts will have a very high drawdown expectation. Some will have a very low drawdown expectation. In Western Hays County and the Hays Trinity District, we are looking at a 19-foot average drawdown over the 50-year cycle to 2060. So a desired future condition is a compromise between producers and conservationists. And what we've arrived at for this district is, in 50 years, our well levels will be on average 19 feet lower than what they were at the beginning in 2008. The MAG is the Managed Available Groundwater. The MAG is a volume that the Texas Water Development Board has established to represent how much drawdown it is. So in our district, 19 feet of average drawdown, in order to achieve that's a terrible word to use, but let's just use it. For that 19 feet to happen, then the district can allow 2,535,772,000 gallons per year. We are regulators, and we must make sure that we do not issue more permits than that number per year, so that we can maintain our hopeful stasis across time. The other big question that I'm getting is about relevant aquifers. I will tell you all, and I'm sure you all agree, that all aquifers are relevant. Your aquifer is relevant, whether it's the Trinity Aquifer or whether it is a tiny aquifer that only exists in your backyard. When we're talking about regional planning, relevant aquifers have a little bit different meaning. We all understand that all aquifers are relevant. But in regional planning, aquifers, when we talk about relevant aquifers, what we really mean is aquifers declared relevant for regional planning purposes. And those are aquifers that exist in multiple districts and benefit from an intra-district management, like the Trinity Aquifer. The Ellenberger Aquifer is not an aquifer that produces water in Hays County. It only produces water in Blanco County, and so it would not be considered relevant for regional planning, although the Blanco County Groundwater District does have a management plan for that specific aquifer. It's not considered relevant for regional planning purposes. So A lot of people are confused about that terminology, and I hope that I've put some questions to rest. And if anybody has further questions about that, I'm happy to answer them at the end of the program. So the new 5-year planning cycle begins in 2022. GMA 9 has recommended the status quo as it waits for new census data and a superior model. We expect both of those to come along very soon, and we'll begin to make changes probably to the status quo in the next planning cycle. The GMA has gathered public comment to consider for adoption of DSC, DFCs, and relevant aquifers, and will act in September or early October on adopting a final plan. So that's the status of regional aquifer management as we are right now. There is still opportunity for the public to observe and participate in the meetings. They are going to be on all the groundwater districts' websites. You're welcome to attend. Public comment has, that time period has expired, and no more will be considered in this planning process, but we would like for anybody who's interested to participate in the next regional aquifer management planning cycle, which begins in 2022. Well, that takes us to our next big subject, which is the Jacobs Well Groundwater Management Zone. Southern Hays County is blessed with an important flowing spring called Jacobs Well, around which the Wimberley Valley community is centered. Jacobs Well is the water source for Cypress Creek, which we're all here to talk about today. It flows to the towns of Wood Creek and Wimberley and draws visitors from around the hill country and the world and provides habitat and abundant fish and wildlife. In 2010, it helped to bring approximately $65 million in tourism and hospitality revenue to Hays County residents. So it's an important feature from a lot of levels, but most important to me is it provides a beautiful swimming hole for me to take my family and enjoy the waters. Jacobs Well flows from the same aquifer that serves as the sole source of water for tens of thousands of well owners across the hill country and Hays County. Hydrogeologic studies have established Jacobs Well recharge zone, from which much of the spring's water is captured. Increased pumping in Jacobs Well spring shed has a direct impact on water wells and spring flow. During normal condition, there's enough water for the aquifer to support both spring flow and normal water well pumping. But as we move into drought, or as our population increases, we'll see an increase in water well pumping for lawn irrigation, which can result in decreased well levels and decreased spring flow. Nobody has control over failed wells or dry springs due to extreme drought, but we do have the ability to reduce negative impacts caused by moderate drought and heavy summertime pumping. So recognizing the need to protect the hydrologic systems of the Wimberley area, a diverse group of stakeholders, local stakeholders, ranging from water utilities to environmental interests, and everybody in between, gathered in 2018 to develop a methodology to protect the hydrostatic pressure of the Middle Trinity aquifer. Using decades of scientific data from the Wimberley Valley area, county, state, and federal monitor well measurements, spring flow data, dye trace data, and other hydrogeologic information, a scientific technical team established the boundaries of the Jacobs Well Groundwater Management Zone. We'll just call it the zone. With the participation and endorsement of Hays County commissioners, the stakeholder group developed enhanced aquifer protection strategies, including elevated well drilling standards, limitations on commercial well depths, and enhanced drought standards. The zone drought stage triggers were created and dependent on spring flow rates at Jacobs Well. Based on the stakeholders' directives, the district board of directors approved the zone as Rule 15 in March of 2020. That rule package set forth specifics such as how the new zone boundaries, requirements, restrictions, and drought stage structure. So a few basic facts are pretty interesting about this. We're looking at somewhere around 30 square miles for the zone. We're looking at about 3,000 homes and 9,000 residents. There are approximately 1,082 registered exempt wells serving about 3,200 residents. We have 11 permitted wells serving approximately 5,800 residents, countless visitors. And the Jacobs Well permittees include a wide variety of small to large permits, including your major utilities in the Wimberley Valley. On board approval of Rule 15, district staff immediately began the administrative process of implementation. It was very complicated. There's a lot of translation that has to happen between the will of stakeholders and board rules, and then actual administration by staff of the district. It's been a long process. It's been difficult, but we've made a lot of progress, and I'm proud of my crew at the district and of my board for helping out in that process. Despite all of the hard work and good intention and really nice rulemaking, there were some complications. And so we'll go over a little bit of that and then some of the solutions, and then I'll be happy to answer questions after this is done. The complications were that though most permittees are cooperative and communicative and really willing to go along with this process, the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted many aspects of normal district activity, which delayed the implementation plan's timely process. Additionally, COVID-19 disrupted many aspects of normal business activity, which disrupted normal water use patterns. Some businesses were shuttered completely. Others saw abnormal or sporadic use that was difficult to predict. And utilities saw use changes based on large percentages of their customers working from home. Some permittees had already implemented drastic conservation plans, beaten the district to the punch, and are practicing vigorous and lasting conservation programs, which made it very difficult for them to achieve further curtailment. And some permittees demonstrated that crafting a monthly baseline from which to curtail was very difficult because of unpredictable monthly use by that specific permittee over time. So we had to create some solutions, and the board accommodated our permittees' genuine concerns and real issues with these new rules by making some changes that had healthy public input on them. And some of those solutions were adjusting the drought curtailment enforcement suspension. We needed to not enforce on drought for the new zone rules until we really got the whole process underway and implemented. So the board graciously granted an extension on curtailment, not from district rules, but from specific zone curtailment process. The other thing that was tricky was monthly baseline production amount issues. There were lots of problems with, well, I would say that most permittees have a predictable amount of water that they use, and we were able to create baselines from which they could curtail, but some of them, they did not. They did not have predictable use patterns, and so we had to make a rule change or two to accommodate some of those groups, permits that were not able to demonstrate normal predictable uses over time, and from which we could make curtailments. But as it is currently today, we have permitted the majority of our permits with new Jacobs Well permits or adjusted Jacobs Well permits, and we are in the process of accommodating those that have trickier permits, large permits, or irregular permits. They are all voluntarily and willfully and happily moving along with the process to most of the degree. And then we've got one set of permits from a large utility that has refused to participate at all. So we do have a holdout that constitutes a fairly large proportion of Jacobs Well permitted water. We are currently in the process of trying to get them to come along and participate in the process, and we'll see how that goes. that completes my presentation. Let's see if I can find a graphic to leave it on. Make everybody happy. There's a map. Now, the management zone covers Wimberley and Wood Creek, mostly west of 12, and the recharge study zone that associates with the management zone goes clear out to the western and southern edge of the district. I'll turn it back over to Nick and look forward to any questions that happen in the future.
All right. Well, thank you, Charlie. And maybe you can stop sharing your screen. And if anybody, I want to go ahead and move on. If anybody has any questions, you might be able to put those in chat. That would be great. And I'll try to hit those at the end. I have a video I wanted to show you on our new intensive bacteria study that we're doing in Lower Cypress Creek. And Sandra Arismendes could not be with us this evening. I have her presentation. What I'm going to do to kind of get us caught back up and provide for some time at the end for some questions and some updates from Wimberley Valley Watershed. I'm going to show the video, and I'm going to show 2 slides from Sandra's presentation that I think are the most informative on some of the bacteria numbers that we're seeing in Lower Cypress Creek. As many of you know, this has been an area that has been really highly, examined and sampled and questioned as to why, we're seeing those high levels of E. coli, particularly downtown. And then as you move on down toward the confluence, it tends to get worse and worse. So we're trying to do, basically, we are doing bi-weekly sampling on this project on Thursdays and Sundays to kind of look at some less high traffic time and super high traffic weekend in Wimberley to see if we notice changes there. We're able to capture storm events much more accurately doing this intensive schedule. This is funded by an outside donor. And so we've been able to really direct a lot of our resources. And Desiree Jackson, who's on with us today, and Sandra Arismendes have been working on this project. They put together, we had an intern this summer who put together a great project, a great video on this project. I'm going to show that to you guys right now, and I think they'll do a better job introducing this. Let's pull that up here and show you.
Hi, I'm Sandra Arismendes. I'm the Water Quality Monitoring Coordinator at the Meadows Center for Water and the Environment. We're out here today studying the E. coli bacteria and optical brighteners on Cypress Creek. We're looking for potential contamination from on-site septic systems from the residential area surrounding the Wimberley Valley area, and also looking at the bat colony, the impact of the bat colony on E. coli bacteria on the water quality on Cypress Creek.
Hello, I'm Daniel Vasquez. I'm a student research assistant with Texas Stream Team at the Meadows Center. And along with our E. coli bacteria study that we're doing, we're also having a tampling study. And the tampling study is used to detect optical brighteners in the water. And optical brighteners are typically found within toilet paper, tissue, soap, detergents. So we're suspecting that if we're able to detect optical brighteners within the water, that there could be potential septic system leakage or something malfunctioning. So along with our E. coli water samples that we're grabbing today, we're also taking the core measurements with our probe kit. And the probe kit consists of a dissolved oxygen meter and a pH and conductivity meter. Additionally, we test for air temperature, total depth, and water temperature.
Part of the project is to collect a water sample and analyze it for E. coli bacteria. So we use these sterile Whirlpack bags, attach them to our sampling pole here, and then reach out to the center, as far out towards the center of the stream to collect the water sample. So the sample is then taken back to the lab. It's plated using the ColiScan EasyGel media and Petri dish. It is then placed in an incubator for 28 hours. And then the E. coli bacteria colonies that form on the Petri dish are counted and documented. So we're about to retrieve our tampling product for our 3-day deployments. Today we're retrieving tampling material from bottle A. So it's been deployed for 3 days. I'm gonna rinse it in the creek water. Place the foil. I'm going to squeeze out all the excess water. Seal that to prevent any UV light from entering and degrading the optical brighteners. Place it in a baggie. Just to redeploy the tampon. There it is, suspended in the column. We've got a couple of rocks down at the bottom to weight it down. Okay, so each of the 3 bottles have slits at 1-inch increments all the way around. So that allows the water to flow through the bottle and come in contact with the organic tampon, which is then designed to absorb the optical brighteners in the water. We've got all 3 bottles attached to this 20-pound weight. And so we will redeploy in the creek.
Hi, I'm Desiree, and I'm one of the water quality monitors with the Cypress Creek Tampling Project. Right now I'm going to explain to you how we detect our optical brighteners. So after we retrieve the tampon from the water sample, we make sure that we keep it in a dark environment by wrapping it in foil, and it's in a dark environment until it's in the lab analyzed. We use a blacklight UV lamp to shine on the tampons, and if it fluoresces, then the result is there is OB's optical brighteners on the tampons, and it's going to be a bright blue fluorescent light. And in some cases, we are getting some red fluorescence.
After we gather our samples and we're going along with the plating process, we want to make sure that we're incubating our samples around 33 degrees Celsius for roughly 28 to 31 hours. And we're going to make sure that we're counting the colonies with a distinct dark blue and dark purple center. Each one of these dots will represent 1 colony towards our total E. coli colony count.
Okay, so we're using low tech to go high tech on some of this study. As you can see, in addition to the E. coli measurements, we're also doing the optical brightener presence. And we're using this study also to kind of refine our approach on tampling, which may have been the first time some of you heard about this process this evening, but it's actually several peer-reviewed research papers on the effectiveness of it. And you might be interested to know that every tampon that we have recovered from Cypress Creek is demonstrating optical brighteners. What we're trying to do is get down to what maybe some of these optical brighteners are from. So we didn't know we were going to get hits every time on every sample. So we even deployed some upstream of downtown and are getting hits, like in Wood Creek, for instance. It could be runoff from the golf course. So one thing that it's at the very bare minimum, what we're seeing is that there's a lot of these optical brighteners in the environment, right? So it's all over. So we'll see how refined we can get. We've got, we've been doing this now for I think about 4 weeks, maybe we've got 4 or 5 weeks. I think we have 10 samples analyzed in the presentation I'm going to show you a couple slides from. But this is also going along with a study that David Van Huysen is working with us on, doing some septic system analysis in the area of Lower Cypress Creek. So that's the area kind of to the west of Cypress Creek and south and west of Ranch Road 12 through town, to look at some of those systems. We went and pulled records from the city. A lot of information is very out of date. The permitting process was very out of date when a lot of those systems went. One thing we've been able to see for sure is that there are a number of systems that were put in the soil profile accurately. So what we hope to do with this study and the septic study is provide information to the city of Wimberley and Hays County about needs to, phase some of these systems out over time, look for better ways to manage that waste. If we can see more direct connection of the septic systems and the water quality, we'll look at that. But some of the interesting things too, we're seeing more E. coli washing in from stormwater, certainly E. coli influence from the back colony under the bridge. So let me just bring that presentation up real quick, and then maybe Robin can share a couple things from Wimberley Valley Watershed before we close it up. So give me one. So if you guys should be able to see my screen at this point, we have a couple of sites above the bridge. This is right at the bottom of the little trailhead there in Wimberley. And this is behind Inos over there. And then we are looking right below the Ranch Road 12 bridge. This is where GBRA has been collecting Clean Rivers program data for many years. So we've got a long history of data here, but we're doing this bi-weekly. We moved down in this 81652, and let me put it on a slideshow here, a little bigger maybe. 81652 is an interesting perennial stream that runs behind Ozona Bank. We're calling it Ozona Stream. This is an area where we've definitely been seeing higher E. coli potentially coming in. It gets a lot of trash and runoff off of that Brookshire Brothers parking lot in downtown. We see some spikes here. We're looking at another spot at 501 River Road, and then right at the confluence of the Blanco River. So those are the sites that we're monitoring twice a week. We may continue this study for 3 more months, but the idea is to get a good baseline prior to the city connecting to the collection system. So I wanted to show, let's see, just kind of the early results, and then move on. This is green there. You should see the sites. We have 10 total samples in this data set, so it's kind of early data. But what you do see is that 81653, that's the most upstream site. Right above the bridge, we've had the lowest numbers. Then you see almost doubling below the back colony at 926. And then we're seeing even greater increases below the Ozona Creek. A lot of that was a result of one hit that happened after some storm flow, but we definitely see those increases in those 2 sites. And typically we've been seeing high numbers down at the confluence, although that hasn't parsed out yet in this early study. So we're going to continue this study, and I'm going to share this full, we'll share the full presentation with everyone.
I think he was going to say we're going to share the presentation with everybody. And I think that's all he had to do. So Robin, you wanted to take it away from here and give some updates
Yeah,
on Really Valley Watershed.
sure. I need someone to enable the participant sharing.
There we go. Okay. You should be able to now.
All right, great. How does that look to everybody?
Looks good.
Okay, great. Just a real quick rundown because I know we're running out of time, but I think we've all recognized that we have so many challenges with more people wanting to be our neighbors here in Wimberley, and the water demand that causes and the impacts that development and increased population create. But I think there's also the chance to turn those challenges into opportunities. We have a chance to really be to use science to make smart decisions and really lean on water conservation, alternative supplies, and water quality protections to protect what we all love so much here. I wanted to go through and maybe echo a few things that Charlie highlighted, in that spring flow is a really good indicator of what's happening in the groundwater system. And he mentioned that Jacob's Well comes from the same aquifer that tens of thousands of people rely on as their sole source. This is a hydrograph, and it's really interesting. I kind of want to unpack it a little bit. The graph that you see there has two colors. There's green and there's red. It's generated by an automated USGS process through a dynamic graphic. And then I annotate it with the rainfall and then notable stream flow measurements. So we can see that at the beginning of the year, January 1, we were very, very low. It's logarithmic, so it's a little bit tricky, but you see when the green graph starts getting very noisy, that is because of pump influence on the discharge that's coming out at Jacob's Well. It usually happens below 6 CFS, which is really kind of interesting. When things get higher, you can see that the amplitude of change is not nearly as much. But tracking over time, we've recovered to yesterday's mean or average was 3.9 CFS. But before, we spent a long time between 0 and 1 CFS. And that's kind of frightening from the ecological standpoint, and also from the water supply standpoint. Both of those go hand in hand. The red graphic is the USGS gauge that measures the base flow conditions in the Blanco at Fisher Store Bridge. And that's Pleasant Valley Spring and Park Spring, providing all that base flow right there at that portion of the Blanco. And you can see that it was very, very low. Although it has recovered, it has a larger spring shed, so it's benefited more from the rainfall around. So while we've seen increases in spring flow, haven't really seen the same increases in the monitor wells. And that was a point that Charlie made. And I wanted to point that out. If we look at the 1-year record for 2 of the Middle Trinity monitor wells that they managed, you can see that in June, there was a bit of a recovery in both the Burnett Ranch well, or the ESD monitor well, and the Mount Baldy well. You can see it started going up a little bit, thought about it, but it's still headed down. And the reason I'm so nervous about this is because if we look at the period of record for these 2 wells, we can see how low we actually are. 2019 is the oldest data for the ESD well, but the Mount Baldy well goes back to 2005. And you can see that we're even lower than we were in 2009 drought and 2011 drought. So this is a big worrisome prospect for our well owners, and being a groundwater dependent society here in Wimberley. This is big stuff, and this is why we need people to start paying attention and start taking action on being conservationists and find those solutions like the One Water School where we can, if we're going to grow. A fun way for us to start talking about the connection of the surface with the groundwater is deep in the karst of Texas. This is an educational campaign partnership through the Wimberley Valley Watershed Association and TESPA to really make karst a kitchen table term. Karst meaning holes, where rocks with holes allow water from the surface down underground very quickly. And you can see that it happens all over Texas. And what we need people to understand is that our aquifers are karst aquifers, and they do recharge, but they recharge so quickly that what's on the surface goes right down underground. And that's where the water quality concerns come into play for well owners. We invite everybody, all of the agencies and people, to follow us on social media. There's a fun, entertaining educational campaign going on there, and there's going to be webinars, field trips, and a barn dance ultimately. So your friends are welcome. This is in honor of the International Year of Caves and Karst, which is 2021, so it's good. Next up, we have some happy things to report from Coleman's Canyon. That dark green there is the Lower Trinity rocks, or sorry, the Lower Glen Rose rocks on the surface, which take recharge directly into the same aquifer system that feeds Jacob's Well. So it is high priority recharge zone for Jacob's Well system. And that Coleman's Canyon was purchased by the WVWA to stave off a large development that could have gone in there. Right now, we've got greenfielding projects going on. Down at the lower portion of the screen, you can see buildings being decommissioned and turning back into natural scapes. That process is done, and much of the materials were able to be recycled or upcycled. And then we've also got flora and fauna species surveys going on so that we can tell how our restoration efforts are going. And of course, karst surveys and monitor wells there, because the more we know, the better off we all are. And then I kind of look a little bit disheveled probably today because I've been out in the field with the Hayes Trinity crew doing neighborhood site visits. And this is a front yard or backyard education campaign for well owners. I doodled a little bit on that stratigraphic column there just to show what kind of discussions we're having with people. We use the surface geology to tell where their well could be completed, and then water quality to be able to inform them of whether they have a Middle Trinity well or a Lower Trinity well. And there's both in the area. That Middle Trinity area, or the Middle Trinity aquifer, is the portions of the aquifer that feed the springs, like Pleasant Valley Spring and Jacob's Well, Rebecca Spring, Hart Spring. And we're doing this huge effort to gather data to create a snapshot of what the groundwater conditions are in the Middle Trinity and the Lower Trinity themselves, to better inform the policy and the management decisions. And then also empower the landowners to know where their water's coming from. The more they know, the better off we all are. Here's a view of the areas that have been targeted. All those little dots on there are all wells that have been drilled since 2003. So there's more wells than that out there, but this is the best data that I can plot up easily on a map. And those 4 different target areas are where we're focusing. We just wrapped up area 2 and area 4, and next week we'll be down in the green area Area 3 visiting there. So we have 16 wells within that circle that we'll go visit and get water level measurements and water quality on. So it should be great data. And I think it'll also heighten a lot of awareness. There's been fun conversations comparing data between well owners that have participated in the study. So it's been fun. And then we're also supporting the Wimberley Water Advisory Group. The bacteria sampling, this has gone on for dozens of years, led by none other than Pete Anderson. He said, my next birthday, I'm going to be 90. And I said, oh, well, how about let's partner on this and we can lighten your load a little bit. He's been a fantastic mentor. And hopefully I've been keeping up with him, but there's some very interesting data, and this is all volunteer collected. So they're doing it because of their curiosity. And I think it'll be very interesting to compare what their results are with what you guys are finding with the intensive study there. So that'll be fun. And then I'll skip over this one, but the One Water collaboration has been wonderful, and it's a fantastic alternative water supply solution and also a water quality protection project that the students are all on board with. And I'm very proud that it seems like the administration is really flaunting it now too. They're pretty proud of what they've done. And that's all I've got. There's our website. If you want to, you can look us up there or tune in to Facebook because there's a lot of activity there. And also the monthly newsletters are a great way to keep up with what's going on.
All right.
Did I rock it through that too? Was it good?
You rocked it. You rocked it for sure. All right. That was really good. I appreciate everybody sticking with us. Those are some great, I think watershed protection plans and universities engaged in this kind of research, they do not benefit from the tremendous partnerships that we have here in Cypress Creek in this watershed in this region. And what a great testament to that with everything Robin just was able to highlight there in a short amount of time. Nowhere near enough time to go through everything that those guys do. And I appreciate also, I know that David, your granddaughter, was around for a little while. Oh, she's still around, Leah, with Hill Country Alliance, and Sydney Beckner, with Hill Country Alliance is here as well. So appreciate you guys attending. So we will send out that presentation after the meeting that we did not get to go through on the water quality, and provide some links to those videos. And if you guys have any other questions, I think most of you probably have our email or my email. Please feel free to call me, contact me that way. Best way would be through the new texting app. So don't forget to go to the cypresscreekproject.net and sign up for our Remind app, and we can push all of that information to you that way as well. I want to thank everyone for coming and joining us this evening, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening. So with that, thank you very, very much, everybody. Take care.